Now, hello, welcome to today's Our Game show. And no Shane Stapleton today, but delighted to be joined by Kilkenny legend Charlie Carter. Charlie, how are you getting on? Apologies, Charlie. Charlie, I think I had you muted there. As I said to you off air, I'm not the technical whiz, so good to have you this morning.
Or me either. Yeah, good to be on the show, Michael. Yeah.
Good man. Charlie, I suppose just everyone had known you from your playing career. You've obviously stepped into a bit of coaching the last couple of years. Just talk me through. You were with Lucan this year, so you have a fairly good knowledge of the Nafina boys who went down fighting against O'Loughlin Gales on Saturday night.
Yeah, look at the put us out in the semi-final by 4 points, Michael, and I mean they're a fine side. So I certainly wasn't surprised when they turned up on Saturday night. And I mean, it's probably a game when they look back, it's one that they'll probably let slip, probably,
A brilliant game, and for Nafina as first time Dublin champions going in playing a first Leinster final, like it was a brilliant showing, wasn't it? And when they went ahead with a point up going with injury time approaching, you're kind of thinking this could be more history, a first county title and a first Leinster title. But O'Loughlin's saw it out brilliantly in the end. Luke Hogan, who's been unbelievable off the bench for them all year, particularly the last 3 or 4 games. And then Mark Bergen, who I actually remember him missing that free for Kilkenny CBS in an All-Ireland final into the same end. It hit off a post. I remember Owen Kelly, I think he spoke about Owen Kelly ringing him after just to help him get over it. Like, what a way to banish those demons 16 years later.
Yeah, well, I suppose Mark is a very experienced guy and has hurled with Kilkenny in the past, and I mean he's a savage club hurler over the years, and I mean no better guy over a ball to take that deep in injury time. And they had a few cool heads there, Paddy Deegan and Hugh Lawler and a few of them. But for Mark to when you want someone to nail a winner, no better lad than Mark Bergen,
Just talk me through, like, Paddy Deegan, Charlie. I reckon it was one of the great club performances, particularly in a big game. Like, I can't remember the last time a centre back has scored 5 points from playing in any type of game, that it be junior, intermediate, or whatever. Like, what a man to step up. So he got 5 in the Leinster final the other day. He got the winner to knock Ballyhale out in the county final. Like, Jesus, what a few weeks he's had.
Look, he's a savage player, and there's one thing about Paddy Deegan: he turns up every day for the club. He absolutely is a warrior, you know what I mean? And you'd want him in your trenches every time going to battle. And you mean, as you said, he turned up today again at Ballyhale, and when he got the ball that day, he wasn't passing on the responsibility to anyone else. He took it on himself and slotted over. But Paddy he's so obviously he's very experienced and so comfortable in Croke Park, and you mean he's well used to slotting over pints in Croke Park. So the Nafina lads probably give him a little bit too much room in the second half, and no better guy than Paddy to make hay when the sun shone,
Yeah, just a couple of comments in there. Talamangi, so some scoring from Deegan, and Joe Butler, who's a very happy O'Loughlin Gales man this morning. Also living in Turin at the minute, so he's having a great time. It just says Paddy Deegan, what a man, what a leader. Talaman GA throws in, then says Ballygunner will walk the All Ireland, which remains to be seen. But just looking at Saturday evening, Charlie, a bit closer, like it was a pretty high quality game, high octane stuff, high
Uh,
entertainment the whole way through. What was the winning and
and
losing of the game?
Well, you mean, in fairness to Nafina, they turned the screw early in the second half, and they were working the ball through the lines, and they were upsetting O'Loughlin, so they were. And you mean when Sean Curry got the goal to put him, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 points up? Um, they missed a couple of chances after that. Be it Colin Curry with a free or two, and obviously small margins as we've seen in the end, but just they missed a couple of chances, and they'll be kicking themselves when they look back ahead. And then on the opposite side, they probably give obviously they give Paddy Deegan too much room to slot over a load of points, and I mean that was a difference. You mean it's only a 1 point game at the end of the day, so small margins, but you mean Nafina definitely took the game to O'Loughlin's in the second half, and I'm sure Brian Hogan will be having a look at I think only one of the forwards scored from play in the game. I think so. You mean you had Paddy Deegan on 5, you had the halfback David Fogarty on 2, Mark Bergen on 11, I think 9 and 2, 9 from frees and 2 from play, and after that Luke Hogan came in and he got a score all right. But so he'd be looking for more from the forwards the next day against Cushendall.
Just from the Nafina side, Charlie, will they be looking back at this with a bit of regret because they had themselves in that winning position?
Yeah, no, they had themselves in a winning position, and just maybe a little bit of lack of experience, and a couple of chances that just slipped, and as I say, small margins in a tight game, and that was probably the winning and losing it for them.
Yeah, without a doubt. From an O'Loughlin. Go on.
Having said that, they can hold their heads up high. They have been terrific all year, and you mean to win their first county final this year. I mean, I saw them after the semi-final, and they're a very good side, and I mean they're their team to beat in Dublin going forward again. You know what I mean? They have the cup, and the rest are back in the bunch chasing again next year.
It's a bit unbelievable to think what they did without Donald Burke, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, well, sure, we all know how good Donald is, but obviously they roll in together and to back to each other, and you would know Donald was missing at times, but I suppose when he'd be out there, you'd see what he's worth, and I mean he will be worth a few scores, even probably last Saturday evening. But on the flip side of that, I mean it's probably a good way for O'Loughlin's to win. You know what I mean? They'll really have to knuckle down, and they won't be taking Cushendall for granted anyway, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. I spoke to Liam Rush about Donald Burke's absence, and he kind of said that maybe even in the back of their heads they were over relying on him, and it forced other lads to kind of step up. You definitely would say that other lads did step up. Just on the Fina, Charlie, do you expect many of those guys to make a big mark with Micheál Donoghue's squad in 2024? Like AJ Murphy, the two Currys, I would say they probably brought their form to another level in the last couple of months.
Look at in Donald's absence, them lads have stepped up, and AJ has been brilliant all year, as well as the two Currys, and they're match winners on any day. And it's not just the forwards. You have the two Burks in the backs, Liam Rush centre back, McHugh fullback, and their goalie obviously plays a big part as well. Jonathan Tracy in the goal, and he's like a seventh defender. A lot of ball goes through him as well. So. Brian Ryan had a great game on Saturday evening as well. So they have quality. They're a quality side, and they have quality all over the pitch. And from the other clubs in Dublin looking at him, it's going to be a big task for any team to take him down next year.
It's a good sign in a way for Dublin club hurling. If you're looking at, like when I saw Crokes coming up against Ballyhale last year, I was thinking, just these guys are going to be very hard stopped in Dublin and potentially beyond for a while. Now you have a Nafina side that's eventually made the breakthrough. Lucan were flying it this year probably until the 6-week break. Probably wasn't a help maybe going into the semi-final. You have Ballyboden are always going to be there and thereabouts. So there's fair competition within Dublin, which you know very closely, obviously, and they're going to be trying to break the stranglehold maybe next year.
Well, Mike, I've seen it the first hand this year, and I've been hugely impressed with the skill levels and the fitness levels and everything, and the tactics that are used up there, everything. I've just been hugely impressed. I've seen it at first hand, and the serious hurling and the serious work being done in Dublin, and just maybe a little bit of belief when it comes to the county setup. You know what I mean? That they should be able to drive on, because the players are definitely up there. That's for sure.
Just back to O'Loughlin's, Charlie. Like before this year, you're thinking Ballyhale are going for six in a row. They're obviously probably favourites for the All Ireland from the outset. They broke that momentum, and now I really thought going down to Plymouth Leinster was a real banana skin going down there. They got over that the 2 weeks after the county final, beat Kilcormac then the next day, much fancied side. Got the job done against Nafina. Like, what's the ceiling for this O'Loughlin side? They're kind of not saying that they're coming in under the radar, but everyone says, oh, maybe they're having the best forwards in the country. They hit 22 points the other night. They had 20 points in the county final to beat Ballyhale. Like, they can kind of continue to maybe surprise people a small bit, but like it's probably no surprise at this stage. They're one step away from an All-Ireland club final.
Yeah, well, look at they got over the Shamrocks, and that was a big win for them in Kilkenny, and then Mount Leinster Rangers and Cormac and Nafina are there. So they're after having 3 or 4 hard games there in the last 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So they should be in good shape heading into the Cushendall match. But Cushendall are something similar to Nafina, and they won't make life easier for them. And as I said, the O'Loughlin's forwards will probably have to up their game, and maybe not so much their game, but their scoring rate maybe a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of them getting fouled and stuff like that, all right, like on wall and stuff. But look at if they get to Croke Park, I presume that match against Cushendall will probably be in Newry, I'd say, would it?
I'd imagine to be up the country. Yeah, Newry's probably about right. That would have been that would have been where Ballyhale played a couple of years ago. So I'd imagine so. Yeah.
If they could get over that one, they wouldn't, they'd have a right good cut at whoever comes through the other side. And I suppose Ballygunner are flying high, and everyone thinks they're nailed on. But St. Thomas's probably might have something to say about that first. But, a couple of two cracking games to look forward to in the semi-finals as well.
Just on O'Loughlin's and the job Brian Hogan has done, like a real masterful job. I think they were beaten in a preliminary quarter final last year. They're obviously beaten in the county final when Andy Comerford was over them the year before and competed really well. I think it was 4 or 5 points they were beaten, having done brilliantly up until probably maybe the 50th minute or so. Like Brian Cadbury just came on the Kilkenny scene just after your exit, I'd say, Charlie, did he? But like, what a job he's done with O'Loughlin's.
Yeah. Serious guy and really nice guy, and I mean really respected, I'd say, within the club and outside the club as well. He's just a sound guy, and the lads are definitely playing for him. You know what I mean? You can see the whole panel are playing for him, and they have serious backs, obviously, with Mikey Butler, Hugh Lauder, and Paddy there, and the other 3 lads are fine hurlers as well, and Stephen Murphy in the goal, son of Brian Murphy of Cork years ago. And from there up, Conor Heary is a guy that's probably going to get a look in with Kilkenny this year, centre forward, and obviously Mark Bergen is he's a wealth of experience, and he's a sniper. You know what I mean? If he gets a ball, he'll have it over the bar as quick as lightning. So they have serious pace as well. Like in Owen Wall, he's a guy that probably might get a look in with Kilkenny as well. Serious pace and an eye for a goal. If you give him half a chance, he'll be gone for the goal. But look at
not too dissimilar to yourself, Charlie.
I think he has a bit more pace than I am. I might be a slightly different type of order, but he has serious pace. Different game in my day, I think. Like, just had to win our own ball and fight for it and get on with it. But the serious running off the ball and stuff like that nowadays.
Just on that, the game has changed a hell of a lot since you were playing. Like, what are the major kind of takeaways now when you look at the modern game, and even when you're in coaching and managing now, a lot of the philosophies that you would have been brought up with when you were playing, I presume, have not been ripped up or anything. There's still some of them apply, but it is a different game. What are the main differences you've noticed?
So look at a lot of the games, especially in Dublin, particularly, and a lot of the games being ran out from the back. You know what I mean? And where my time was win your own ball, and even in Brian Coley's latter years, you still had to win your own ball, fight your own area, and there wasn't as much running off the ball. If I was in the modern game, I wouldn't fancy chasing the corner back 3 or 4 times up the field. I'd say he could score more than I'd score. I'd say. I wouldn't like to be chasing Ollie Canning now up the field if he was playing in the modern game.
It's mad, like, because in the modern game now, just say if you were marking Ollie Canning, he'd probably be like, and his management would be probably saying, "We want you to try and put him on the back foot." Whereas back in the, we want you to get forward and try and score. Whereas back in the day, it was all just about marking your man, keeping it tight and trying to win the 50-50 balls in between the two of you. It's gas like.
Yeah. Well, even fairness, Tally, now I remember the first time I marked him was the 01 semi-final, and I hadn't marked him before, and he was actually playing the forwards up to that day. And first ball I went for, I'd usually be quick off the mark, but just this lad was gone. He was gone. I said, I'm in for a tough day here, and look, we had many a battle after that, but he was just a brilliant cornerback, and just a brilliant cornerback, you know. So look, the modern game has just gone, and even when I arrived in Dublin last year, I wouldn't have seen myself playing the way I did eventually. Obviously, most of the Dublin teams set up with sweepers, so you're kind of forced into change. And I mean, I had to adapt a little bit, but that wasn't a problem either. But just was a slightly different way than it's played in Kilkenny or even Wexford when I was down in St. Martin's in Wexford for the 4 years, you know.
It's kind of mad, isn't it? Even within counties, how there's different styles even within counties. Like, and the lads would always say, we'd often Nisha Waldron is coming on later in the show, who would have played with Kula, and Shane obviously played with Kula as well. And they'd always say that, like, even tactically, Dublin is one of the more, I don't know if advanced is the right word to use, but it's one of the championships where there's a hell of a lot of different tactics and systems at place. And I presume you would have seen that fairly firsthand.
Oh yeah, certainly. Seriously, more so than as you said, Kilkenny don't do as much tactics. They do some, but they don't do it to the same level as I've seen at the Dublin Championship, you know. And you have to adapt, and I mean, you have to go with the players you have as well. And I mean, I wouldn't have seen myself running out as much ball out from Luke and when I arrived first, but it was a case I haven't and burying the whole game. And in fairness to the lads, they were able to do it. I had to trust that they were able to do it. And after a few matches, I mean, I knew that they had played this game before, so it was I had to adapt more than they had to adapt. You know what I mean? But anyway, it wasn't ended up not too bad, I suppose, but. That's the way it goes. You have to adapt sometimes, and certainly, as you say, the tactics are, and yeah, it was different in Dublin than it had been in Kilkenny.
Isn't that probably a classic case of how you have to cut your cloth to measure what you have before you, rather than, I don't know if managers can come in with their own style of play now. It all does depend on what you have, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the system, like when you're forced into sweepers every day, you have to change you have to change up and try and work around it and get around that sweeper, and try and get a few points, long range points and stuff like that. But so yeah, but sure, that's what makes it good and challenging, you know.
Without a doubt, yeah. Just obviously we would have seen the three Kilkenny guys that were playing in defence for O'Loughlin's the other day, Mikey, Hugh Lawler and Paddy Deegan. Obviously they're going to be mainstays heading into 2024. Where do you see Kilkenny at heading into 2024? Derek came in his first year, an All-Ireland final appearance, a dramatic Leinster final win. There's probably, Richie Hogan has stepped aside, Pádraig Walsh has stepped aside. I think Walter Walsh is staying on, along with Killian Buckley and Conor Fogarty, from what I'm led to believe. Like, where do you see Kilkenny at going into 2024?
Well, I say Derek has a choice to make. Does he fold or stick? Does he stick with the lads that he has and they weren't good enough for the last couple of years to get the job done, or does he go forward and bring in a bunch of young lads and give them the experience over the next year or two? So like Limerick are still high up there, and they're going to be hard to be knocked again next year. So we weren't good enough this year. So I mean, I have no problem if he goes back to younger lads and blood him this year, and even if we don't win All Ireland, you know what I mean, and build for the future again. So Derek has a decision to see what way he wants to go, but maybe he'll go with some of the older lads again and just try and blend in a couple of new players into it as well, just to shake it up a bit.
Are you patient type down there, Charlie? Would like if he did train lots of new faces and things didn't go well, would the patience be tested?
That should be tested after a while, all right, Mike. But you mean sometimes you have to go back to go forward, and I'd be prepared to give him a couple of years anyway, but whether everyone in Kilkenny would or not, I don't know. But you have other teams coming there as well. The likes of Cork are building strong, and there's plenty of other good teams there. Clare are going to be a force again next year,
Without a doubt, yeah. Just on, as I said, Kilkenny looking into 2024, having fought so well in the early stages of the All-Ireland final, but ended up, I think, was it 30 points to 215, 9 point kind of losers at the end of the day. Like compare that to 2022 when you were within a puck of the ball of them. Like are Limerick getting further away from teams, including Kilkenny, or Kilkenny getting a bit further away? If you get me.
Yeah, look at it. It's a strange one, Mike. 2 years ago, I didn't give us much chance, and we nearly pulled the rug from under Limerick in the end. But last year, I gave us a good chance going up. But as you say, it ended up a 9-point. We're well beaten last year in the final, But that's a serious Limerick outfit, and they're still young, so it's going to be hard to stop them doing that 5 in a row this year. That's for sure.
I presume within Kilkenny, considering that you didn't get there in 2010, you'd probably love to see them stopped realistically.
Sure. Look at them. You have to hand it to them. They're a great side. They have it everywhere. They have strength and speed, and serious hurling ability as well. And they have a few young lads coming there as well again this year. Adam English is a year older, Cathal O'Neill is a year older, just to keep the pressure on the forwards, and then the backs. Like Colin Coughlin, keep everyone on their toes. So they're in a good place, Mike. They're in a good place, and but so that's the challenge for everyone else to try and knock them off their perch.
It's a bit frightening when you think like Cathal O'Neill can't get into the team, or Adam English can't get into the team. It's not as if the reserves aren't coming. The reserves are there. They're just been kept out of the team by some of the greatest players we've ever seen, realistically.
That's it. And in fairness, Clare had a right good rattle at him in the Munster one, the Munster Championship, and I suppose Clare and Limerick always takes on a life of its own anyway. They're being neighbours, and Clare will never fear Limerick anyway. They'll have a rattle at him, and vice versa. So, we're probably in for a good championship again. The Munster Championship last year was a serious campaign, and you wonder how they were able to go to the well week in, week. We had 3 weeks of a gap years ago, to recover, and I don't know how the modern players are able to go week on week the way they are. It's unbelievable, considering they're amateurs.
How would you fancy the modern day training?
Oh, I'd have to adjust a few things, I think, Michael. So look at the lads; they're no different. You know what I mean? I obviously we probably trained harder than the maybe the panel 10 years before us. It just keeps moving. You know what I mean? But you'd adjust all right, but you'd have to change your lifestyle a small bit maybe to meet the needs.
And I'm wondering, given that you kind of played through what I would call the good times, particularly within the way the Offaly lads lived and hurled and all like that kind of thing. What were your thoughts when you saw this player charter flying around last Sunday night, and lads being kept away from alcohol and basically being kind of tied down? Or what did you make of it?
Well, look, I'm happy to play in the time I played in, because we trained hard and we hurled hard, but we certainly had a life outside of hurling. And you could go for that old pint on a Sunday night after a match, and back to training on the Tuesday night. But sure, and on the Monday after game championship matches, our recovery session was slightly different to the ones now. We used to do a bit of a wobble down John Street in Kilkenny late at night, but that's just the way it was, and it was great. All the players, and I'm sure it's the same in other counties. All the players would meet up on maybe 3 or 4 o'clock on a Monday and have a few pints and a bit of a chat, and she'll be back to training on Tuesday night, and off you go again, run it out here. So great to be young.
Yeah, I can remember even 10 years ago when Johnny Pilkington was over us in Burr. He used to have a training sessions on a Tuesday night. He used to have what used to refer to as the Monday Club. So anybody that went for a few drinks into the early hours of Monday or like that, it was ran out of them. I don't even know if that type of thing would be nearly allowed now, the way it's gone.
Well, I don't think Johnny couldn't give out too much tea anyway if you went for a few lines, that's for sure.
Well, I tell you what, we were never told not to go out anyway. I'll put it that way. Charlie, I always meant to ask you. Obviously, lads that know you as a hurler and as a manager now, but you're gone massive into the racing like the last 20 years. Breeding. So you sold a big walk in the park one earlier on this year for a tidy sum, shall we say? How did you get into racing, and how did you get into the breeding side of things?
I'm breeding horses all my life, Michael. My father, Lord Mersham, had horses here when I was growing up, and he gave me the love of them, and I've continued with him. I usually just breed and sell them, but another one I'd race. But yeah, look, you have good days, and I mean, you said I had a good day there, but it wouldn't be all glory either. You have ones that wouldn't make money as well. But look, it's an interest I had for years, and I've always had it, and yeah, so it keeps me busy.
You must get a great buzz off it, because I know even just from, I'm involved with a horse there that won twice this year. The crack you get off it. The only thing I could compare it to is if you, like, when he's running, is if you had like a sibling playing an All Ireland final or something like that. The kind of buzz and the nerves you get off it. And I can remember you had Howie Abud a couple of years ago that won a good maiden hurdle, and that you must get a great buzz off it. It's kind of hard to describe maybe for people that aren't into racing, the buzz you get off it.
Yeah, look, it's serious, and he was a horse that I tried to sell and it didn't work out, and I kept going, and he went to Leopardstown at Christmas of 2 years ago, and there was no one there, only the members because of COVID, and I was in the stand. There was about, the stand in Leopardstown was a big stand now, and there was about maybe 50 people in it. But the roars of Mike when he came up the straight in front, it was my greatest day in racing. Especially, a horse that you bred from day one. You were there when it was foaled, and ran through his career up to the day he won at Leopardstown. And yeah, look, that was a memorable day, even though there was only a small crowd in Leopardstown. But yeah, it was a great day. So it was.
I mentioned the tidy sum that you made, but realistically, for the vast majority of people, racing is a real labour of love, like, isn't it? Like, it's not, you're definitely not going to become a millionaire. To be more, like, even Willie Mullins has, like, 80% of his horses that he runs are probably losers. Like, it's the same in the breeding game. You're kind of going and going and going to hopefully eventually strike with that one, isn't it? But when you do strike with that one, it's kind of all worthwhile.
Yeah, that was great, and I could tell you the other side of it. I had bought a mare the year before, and I paid a good few pounds for her, and she fall down her first fall, and 20 minutes later the mare was dead. So that's the other side. She, unfortunately, the mare hemorrhaged, and so that's the other side of it. So even though the sale of the horse was good, it wasn't all glory this year. I can guarantee you that. It was, yeah, that's livestock when you're in them. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's the ups and downs of breeding horses, But yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's.
there's definitely more downs than ups usually in racing.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, you either like it or you don't. There's no middle ground with horses. And over on the hurling program here now, but there is a
Yeah.
lot of hurlers and footballers that have legs in horses and fond of horses and breed horses and stuff like that. But yeah, look, it's either like them or you don't. There's no middle ground.
My involvement in horses charity is usually not even a leg or anything like that. It's usually a hair and the tail normally. That's about as far as it can stretch.
Well,
But
like now, if you want a full
as
horse,
long as it's involved, there's not a big involved.
if you're looking for a horse, Michael, give me a shout anytime.
Just to fire a couple of quick ones at you, hurling related before you go, Charlie. Your toughest opponent. Who's your toughest opponent in from Sean? Toughest opponent you ever came across?
Ollie Kenny, without a shadow of a doubt. He was exceptional. He had it everywhere: skill, speed, determination, strength. And you'd nearly be marking him more than he'd be marking you, but like that. So he was the first guy. Most of the backs before that, he was hurled from behind, and this lad just went about marking me a totally different way, and he had it everywhere. And I'd be friends with Ollie off the field, and once we were finished hurling. But super guy, and as regards in around Kilkenny, sure, look, it would have had the likes of Willie O'Connor and Eddie O'Connor and all them years ago that were serious guys as well. But yeah, Ollie would be the top of the list, anyway, that's for sure.
It's funny you mentioned hurling from the front. I'd say Hugh Lawler hurls from the front more than any hurler I've seen probably in the last 10 or 15 years. It's brilliant to look at, isn't it?
Yeah, look, he backs himself every time, and seriously good in the air as well. And I suppose you have the likes of Mikey Butler around him there, and it's great to see Mikey doing so well. You know what I mean? Good to see that the small man can still work in the modern game. And then with Paddy outside them, they're three serious backs, and they're well complemented by Fogarty, Buckley, and who's in the other corner there. Just slips me mind there at the moment. But
I can't think of it. Tony Forstall's one corner anyway.
Yeah, Tony, serious operator as well. So, yeah, look, the modern game, the modern backs are tough teak and well to get forward and take points. Both Buckley and David Fogarty in particular have been averaging 2 and 3 points a game between them. You know what I mean? So sometimes the O'Loughlin's backs, the half back, are nearly scored more than some of the forwards. But that's just the way it's gone, and they're very confident in getting forward and pulling the trigger. You know.
Last question I throw out to Charlie because I've Nisha Waldron waiting in the wings to come in. I think it's 20 years this year since your Kilkenny career finished. Do you ever have any regrets about the way it finished, or would you have parked that a long time ago?
Look, it's definitely parked a long time ago, Michael. Look, it's well documented. But look, I made my decision back then that I wasn't enjoying it, and I pulled away. And I say 20 years are well gone now at this stage. So look, if you had to ask me, I mean, if you had tell me at the start you'd win 3 All-Irelands, get to 6 All-Irelands, and win 3 of them, I would have hooked the hand and all off you. So 13 good years with Kilkenny, and enjoyed every bit of it, bar the last couple of weeks, and. It's I just love to be back doing it again. That's the only thing. Yeah, look,
you only get one career, don't you? Kind of.
I know.
There's nothing like Ben.
It goes so quick, you know what I mean? And we'd all love to be 20 years younger and that again. But anyway, time moves on, and management is as good as I can do at the moment, and I'm really enjoying that with the Lucan lads at the moment. And I mean, they're a great bunch of lads and a great club, and they had some great games, underage games at the weekend there. They had a great game with Kilmacud, got beaten on penalties in under 21 on Saturday, and the previous Sunday they beat Kilmacud in the minors. So that was a great game. And the work that's been done in Dublin is absolutely serious work being done in Dublin. And I mean, if they could believe in themselves maybe a bit more at intercounty level, because the players are definitely there to be better than they are at the moment and be more competitive than they are. Not that they're not too bad, but they could be better again, So, Micheál Donoghue has plenty of good hurlers to work with up there,
Just on your own career, Charlie, I think there'll be a lot of lads be happy to have what you have in your back pocket. So you definitely didn't do too bad anyway.
No, we had good days with Kilkenny, yeah. Good days. As I say, we took the handle out of his start, but you always remember the ones that got away, Michael. More so than the ones that you won the Cork in 99 and the E-Devils coming in the back door in 98 and clipping us.
It's gas, Charlie. I'm wondering actually, were you playing in the challenge game? Michael Bond came in as manager in 98 and he couldn't get a challenge game, and he's forever grateful to Kevin Fennelly for giving him a challenge game. He needed a challenge game to get a look at, and he absolutely hockeyed us. I think it was 30 or 40 points. And then all of a sudden you end up meeting about 2 months later, and the result is different. Hurling's a mad one like that.
Yeah, well, I remember being up in Thurles at the semi-final, the replay, and you were brilliant at the. Stephen Byrne the goal, Joe Dooley, magnificent the same day. But I knew you were a different animal coming in the next day. But you mean, look what happened. Look, Brian gets sick and goes to the forwards, and your name was just on it. You know what I mean? You sit down and you get a replay, and rightly so. I have no problem with it. But yes, look at this. I think your name was on that one, Michael.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because we were actually probably we were better in nearly in 95 throughout, and we ended up getting beaten in 95. Clare were the best probably team in 98, and we ended up winning. That's just the way it kind of happens. But no, Charlie, thanks a million. You've been brilliant with your time, and hopefully I'll see you on the track with one of your ponies someday soon. All right.
So if you want home, Mike, give us a shout. Okay.
Good man. Thanks, Charlie. Talk to you soon.
See you, mate. Take care.
Bye. That's great to have Charlie Carter with us there, Kilkenny legend. I don't know if we can call this man a Kilkenny legend, but he's a Kilkenny man anyway. Nisha Waldron, how are you?
Well, boy, well. I'm grand. I was just listening to Charlie there. What a legend.
Oh, what a player. It's funny because even in that 98 final, even though Kilkenny were struggling, he got a lovely goal where he threw the ball out in front of himself and it hopped on the ground and he whipped it to the net. And I was kind of thinking we were in trouble. But what a player, and absolutely, he's talking about snipers. He mentioned earlier, he was one of the biggest snipers that there ever was in the game. Lethal corner forward.
Oh, he was class. And he used to I used to always try and copy him when I was growing up. He used to do a thing where he'd catch the ball with his hurl hand, and he was the first lad I ever noticed doing that. And my brother used to eat the head off me for practicing it, like, but I always tried it, and just like, because the idea was, you know, and you see lads doing it now. Owen Cody is really good at it. Glenn is good at it as well. It's like the idea is get possession as quick as you can. And I just, I loved Charlie Carter. I didn't realize actually. I always kind of thought, as, because say it was 20 years ago, I'd have been 14 when he was leaving, and kind of going, Jesus, his career was cut short.
Yeah, I thought the same myself. Yeah.
But then when he said there, like, oh, 13 great years, you kind of go, jeez, like, it's like
1991 league he started. Like, it's mad to think it, like, isn't it? I tell you why, and probably why you wouldn't realize it, and even the average punter wouldn't realize it, just because, like, after 94, 95, 96, 97, and then coming into 98, Kilkenny weren't on the scene as much. You're only seeing maybe one game
a year, yeah,
most years, you know.
Yeah, and that was the thing, like, and he said, oh, I got to 6 All-Irelands, like, and it's mad when he kind of said that, and I have 3 All-Ireland medals. I would have always kind of thought, just, you know, Charlie Carter could have done with a few more medals, and just he missed out on, you know, 03 and after, you know, but nah, like, what a man, like, yeah, and he's there with Luke and now, and sure, be interesting to see how he goes there. I thought they were in with a good shout this year in Dublin, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does with Luke and in management from now on. Like,
just the word on that Leinster final, because I know you watched all the games all weekend. Like, it was a rip roaring game. I was delighted personally for Mark Bergen to get the bit of redemption going into the Canal end with that free, but like it was on a knife edge the whole way through, realistically, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good old game, like it, and it was good that it was in Croke Park, I suppose, as well, because it was more open, and like, whereas the way O'Loughlin's are set up, like, they're so hard to break down. And yeah, Mark, look, sure, anyone who remembers knows what happened, like, against De La Salle that time, and it kind of haunted him and stuck with him for a long time. And he ended up getting the winning one then on Saturday. His last point was the free from out around midfield there. You know, and considering as well, he had missed an awful lot against Kilcormac as well, but he was deadly accurate there Saturday. And then just how dangerous and how good their half back line is actually kind of incredible. Paddy Deegan get 5 points from play from centre back. It's like something you'd seen in an underage game. And still, like, you know, Nafina very close without 3 of it. Well, you know, without Donald Burke, without Barrett, and then Paul O'D going off. That's kind of one, you know, and a lot of people around here saying, like, they're in bonus territory, like, fair play to them and all this and that. It's like, well, bonus territory doesn't really exist, because who knows when you'll come out again, if you'll come out again. So it's probably one they'll probably be sickened enough. But look, O'Loughlin's well deserved. They're very hard breakdown. Brian Hogan, like, what a job Brian Hogan's after doing. Yeah. It's actually incredible to come from, what were they beaten in the quarter final last year, were they?
Preliminary quarter final, I think.
Yeah, and then to go along, beat the All-Ireland champions, and then win Leinster, like, in the first year you're there. Because I think Richie Hogan said something that O'Loughlin's were probably in the top 5 club teams in Ireland the last few years, just they couldn't come out of Kilkenny. I wouldn't agree with that now. So, like, the turnaround has been fairly incredible. They're so hard to break down. I was actually surprised Nafina did score a goal and had another couple of chances, because it's just, I suppose that's the benefit of Croke Park, like, because against Kilcormac, like, they flooded the place. It's so hard to break them down. They play with like 3 or 4 lads up front sometimes, and they've about 5 lads across, kind of just in front of the 65, Paddy Deegan, and then sitting back, and they're cute enough now as well, like, where as soon as there's a sniff of a goal, somebody does a kind of a clumsy, awkward kind of a trip and takes a yellow card. It's usually Jordan Malloy, and then ref, you know, Jez, you know, there's nobody getting in at him. So that's why I was surprised. Like, Nafina did very well. It was a good old game. It was a good old game. All the games were good, like, in different ways, like, obviously, because different weather and different fields and all that kind of stuff, but enjoyable games.
You were obviously you played with Ballygunner briefly for a while as well. You probably could never have imagined that they'd go on to do what they have done now. They equaled was it Blackrock they equaled with 5 Munster titles, I think, and obviously the first ever 3 in a row. And it was just like, if, as Colin Keys wrote in Independent today, if ever the start of the game was not a sign of what was to come, you think Clonlara hit the ground running here, a couple of early points, Crowder kind of behind them, and then Ballygunner just took over, complete control. And I don't know if it was a shot that the long ball in for Desi, but it was floated in perfect. It was 1-on-1, finished it clinically. And then that team goal finished by Kevin Mahoney, like it was just beautiful. It was a John Collins shot that dropped short. I think 10 different lads were involved in the goal. Finished with a little pop pass. Kevin Mahoney finishes it, but like, I don't know. There's some men for the big occasion too as well. They often save their best for a final, and like they are roaring favourites to win the All Ireland at this stage.
Yeah, going on from here, like realistically, they should, right? But sure, how many times have you seen that in sport? Like, you don't know, especially in club games. But they are really on a different level. And it's funny you say, like, when I was playing Ballygunner, I was there for 4 years, from 2010 to 13, and kind of we were going through a phase of winning a load of under 21s and minors in a row, and we actually did openly speak about it, like to say the older heads that are on the team now, we did a lot speak about winning All Irelands, like, and thinking like it'd be a shame if this group of lads never went on and won All Ireland. Like, it was on the agenda back then, and the amount of work that's gone into the club for the last 10 or 15 years, like the amount of minors and 21s they've won, this was coming. But now they have kind of perfected a style and a system and a way of playing that nobody at club level seems to be able to match. Like, right, they just, like, how many times do they score? Like, say Kevin Mahoney's goal, for example, right? How many times do you see them get them kind of scores where the sliotar doesn't seem to touch the grass at all? Now, I know it did at the end, right? But the sliotar doesn't touch the grass at all. They move, and somebody maybe, like, say Mikey Manny is in the kind of beginning of the move and ends up giving the final pass to Kevin as well. Like, Mikey gave the ball in. They're so fit, they're so slick, they're so fast, they're so crisp, and whatever they do when the Waterford Championship ends, I know it's probably ultra competitive among the group, and there's probably lads on the bench that are good enough to be starting on any other ordinary club team. Like, but you know, sometimes you just have to kind of swallow it and think, look, I'm a part of something that's bigger than an ordinary club team here. I'm along for the ride. I'll just do what I can and hopefully get on. But you know, if you're a Waterford hurling fan there, like, right, looking at that match yesterday, you know, right, probably 5 of the starting 6 forwards could be Ballygunner lads next year with Waterford. If you had Peter Hogan, Desi Hutchinson, Patrick Fitzgerald, and Kevin Mahoney. So sorry, 4. Sorry, like, they're class. They're so good. Lovely mix of young lads and older lads. Like, the ball that Patrick Fitzgerald gave in, for Desi's goal, like, lovely little pick up, and it's route 1. But they know what they're doing. They know Desi's in there 1-on-1. So it's a case of, right, he'll probably win this, so let's try it. And then the other goal is move, pass, move, pass, move, laid off, goal. Like, they can mix it whatever way you want, whatever way you try and set up. They can handle it, and they'll get away around it. Like, they're class.
Do you know what's great about that as well? And the goal was brilliant as well. Desi probably could have just slung a ball over the crossbar realistically when he got it. But I don't know, goal is almost the first thing that's on their mind. Anything inside the 65, I'd say, when they see any sort of an opportunity. And I suppose when you know that Mikey Mahoney's giving the ball in, and like a lad is making a run then 45, 50 yards to get into position for a goal. And as you say, like, it's like Limerick. The ball is never behind you, or it's never even at you. It's literally just in front of you. It's that perfect kind of ball. Always real sympathetic, always moving to a man that's in his stride. And like, in fairness, as Donald Madden said after, and I'll go into his quotes now in a minute, like, Clonlara, some of these lads that were playing for Clonlara were playing the intermediate relegation final a couple of years ago, and now you're going in against the cream of the crop. Like, where, like, can you find any weakness in Ballygunner? Like how can teams get at them from here on in?
You'd need to have a lot of fast athletes around kind of half forward, midfield, maybe in your half back line as well, where you run at them and carry the ball at them and put them under pressure that way, I think. But even at that, they swarm around the middle and clog up the middle so well and create the space inside that then if you lose it with your lads pushing forwards and it's ballooned in over your head into Kevin Mahoney, Desi, or whoever's in there, it's probably going to end up in a goal as well. So it's really hard. Like, see, this is the thing, is like, they're a couple of years down the line of their style of play. They know it inside out. And like Shane and Saki were kind of saying yesterday in TG Carr afterwards, you know, they've developed an understanding where, you know, like on a field sometimes, you know, when you're on a field sometimes and you can just kind of look at someone and nod or look and turn like this or point, and everyone knows exactly what's going on. Like, and then the lads that come in even know exactly what's going on. And they have lads like on the bench, you know, or maybe that weren't playing during the year and now we're playing. Like Ronan Power, for example, is playing now. Like he was on club team of the year. Billy O'Keefe was on club team of the year before. You know, they have an unreal panel. So how do you break them down? I think you kind of need to somehow spread out their back line and then run at them. Put the like of, say, Philip under pressure. Put the like of Shane under pressure. Put Barry Coughlin under pressure by running at them. But easier said than done. That's ideally probably what you would have to do. Because when it comes down to if you're going to try and go 15 on 15, you're at nothing. If you try and, you know, flood the midfield, you're kind of at nothing either as well because they're so fast that they can go over the top of you and pull you out. And you know, they have kind of this the thing, like, remember Sun Tzu and the Art of War says, you know, you have to be able to do both. Like if they're expecting you to do one thing, you need to be able to do the other. And if then they cop this, then you have to go back to that, like, or whatever, you know. It's kind of, yeah, you really have to be able to mix the things, and it's hard to do, but they have the players to do both. They can go long if they want, they can run if they want, they can pass it out if they want. And an awful lot of it then is all predicated around Philip being free to do what he wants in the back. And an awful lot of their moves begin with the ball breaks, Barry Coughlin maybe holds his man, Philip picks it up, or it's flicked out to Philip, he looks up and it's pinged to somebody like Conor Sheehan or Andrew Hogan, and then off they go. Three lads go running and Andrew has the choice to pick. And you know another thing they do actually as well that I love in the forwards, where when the gap is closed, right, they don't just try and barrel through someone. They realise it's stopped. They're getting held up. They stop, turn back around, and then you see you've changed the point of attack and you've changed the angle. And now you could spot someone on the far sideline maybe, and you give this kind of 40-yard hurl pass that somebody is running and everyone's going, "Jeez, who's marking?" But because if you're playing half forward or midfield and looking back at that, you kind of think, right, we've held them up. And next thing, you know, Conor Sheehan or whoever, or somebody goes fizzing past your ear and you go, oh, and they have this 5-6 yard start on you and you can't stop them. Like, so they're really good, but it's very hard. You'd need kind of 6, 7, 8 athletes around that middle third to run and carry. But does any club team left have that? Maybe O'Loughlin's half back line. Outside of that, no, yeah, it's tough to see. Like, it's tough to see.
Just want to fly through a couple of comments because I think there's an interesting team here. Adrian McGrath just says, Ballygunner's Munster Championship performances have undermined the theory there's something wrong with Waterford's Championship. They gave Sarsfields and Clonlara a hammering, beating a Pearship comfortably. And this, the One Step Auto just chimes in on that and says 100%. There's definitely two other teams in Waterford who would beat any Cork, Clare or Tip club. This is an interesting kind of point. Richie Hogan brought it up Saturday, and I know John Malam was chatting about it on the radio yesterday. Would you see any merits in, like, say, for example, De La Salle are trying to close the gap on Ballygunner? But the gap is, 9 points based on the county final. But every time Ballygunner win the championship, they're going on and playing all these games and getting, more S&C, more coaching, more exposure to, teams outside the county or whatever. And maybe you could say the De La Salle are getting further behind. And the example we were talking about in the show the other week was Turin up in Mayo. So every time they win Mayo, they go on and get another 3 months of hurling that no other club in Mayo gets. And they start their championship quite late. So is there any merit to, like, county finalists in, we'll say, all the senior teams are competing in Munster, the counties that are competing in Munster and Leinster? Is there any merit to the finalists getting a berth within the provincial campaign to maybe make the provincial campaign more competitive, potentially, and maybe in a roundabout way make the county championships more competitive down the line as well, because they'll be getting more exposure? Is there anything to that?
I don't know really, because like just on the Turin point, it's a funny one, right? How many Connacht intermediates in a row have they won? Would you not kind of be at the stage? I know they're probably chasing an intermediate in All Ireland, which would be great, but at what stage is it when they win the All Ireland? But at what stage do you kind of say, right, lads, any chance you want to compete in a Connacht Senior Championship now and play the Galway Champion to come out, like, right, forget the intermediate now. You've done that how many times? Let's go try and push on for a senior. There's the development there, I would say. But the kind of losing finalists, if there was room in the calendar, maybe. But I mean, the thing is that going to help you beat this current crop of Ballygunner players? I don't think so. Like, what if, let's say, right, the losing Clare, so the Clare champion went along there now and were beaten by 13 points by Ballygunner, right? who beat the Tip champions, right? So let's say the losing Tip finalist is in Munster and ends up somehow getting to a Munster final. What would the gap be then between Ballygunner and the losing Tip finalist or the losing Cork finalist? You know, it could end up being a bit of a, you know, like a pigeon shoot or whatever, like, you know. So that's the thing. Like I like the system the way it is. It's just the calendar can be, you know, because it wouldn't fit in the calendar first of all, and then your season would be unbelievably long.
I thought that too, but I had a conversation with a fella about it last night, and he just said, "Do you actually need to add more? Do you actually need to add more weeks to the calendar, or do you just like put in, like, say there's 5 teams in Munster, do you just end up putting, if they say there's another 3 or 4 teams in, you just play like straight quarterfinals, everyone in a quarterfinal, and then say, you know what I mean, like, or in Leinster." You play it's 16 instead of 8 or whatever, but you play a last 16, a last 8, last 4. It's, you know, you're not. I don't think you're adding that much to the calendar. But basically, I don't think it'll ever happen, because I don't think they really want to go after making, like, that would be like a Champions League aspect almost. And there's part of me thinks it would be great, but this might sound a bit bad, but I actually don't know if they care enough about, like, really going really hard at making this a massive thing and making it even more appealing to the average punter than it already is.
Yeah, no, like I don't think they will. And then the other thing too is you'd have to be very careful with the dual aspect then as well. Like you'd probably pretty much kill dual players. You know, because if you were, I know they aren't that common anymore really, even at senior club level, but they are still there. And like, you know, let's say for example, Lockmore come out a Tip in football and hurling. Sure, how could they possibly fulfill the fixtures? You know, or when would you play the football week? When would you play the hurling week? You know, and would you then have to concede one to go, oh right, well sure, look, we'll let the beaten semi-finalists now into the Munster Football Championship because we can't compete in the Munster Football Championship, just for an example. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think there's the kind of higher level interest there. The kind of, you know, the county matches are the big show in town. And for a lot of people, I think the club games are just kind of tolerated. Whereas I actually in loads of ways prefer the club game. Like, say, like yesterday there now, watching Chrissy McCaig and Neil McManus going at it. I actually really enjoyed looking at that, because, you know, they're just two hardened veterans going at it. And then, you know, you'll get the odd lad, then it'll pop up, he's 37 or 38 and he's absolutely lauded with the club, but he just doesn't have it for the county. And there's something special about that. But I don't know. I just, and then what would people think? I suppose you wouldn't really care, because it happens at inter-county level. You know, if a losing county finalist wins the Munster Championship or Leinster Championship, but again,
yeah, but the thing about that is, just say Ballygunner won Waterford by 2 points, and we'll say they beat Rowan Moore in the final. Like, if Rowan Moore are good enough to go through the back door and win a Munster or win All Ireland, then like, there's no issue at county level. Do you know what I mean? That's just even kind of like, should Ballyhale still be in the All Ireland? Should still have been in the Leinster? If just say Ballyhale were still in the Leinster Championship, would you fancy them to get to the latter stages of All Ireland? You probably would, like, but they were beaten by a point in the county final. I just think it's maybe a different element to it, but as you say, like, I don't think that's a primary goal at the minute with how they want to promote the club game. Far from it, really. But Nisha, we'll just hop to the Ulster Championship. You kind of teed it up there. It finished 20 points to Rory Old Cushendall, 2-10 to Schlockneil. Like, a massive win for Cushendall. And just even thinking about it, like, Lochiel must be kicking themselves after being bet by a point in the county final. Like, that's just even part of the point even. But this is a pretty polished display by Cushendall. I thought the fact that they really struggled even to get level against Portaferry might serve them well in an Ulster final, and I think it kind of proved that way.
Yeah, and then, like, you know, Slacknail hadn't played in 12 weeks and it looked like it, which is the thing. They were kind of a good bit below what their performances have been for the last kind of 8 years. You know, they ran Ballyhale close, they ran Ballygunner close. They probably should have beaten the Piercy that time as well, and that just they were a shadow of themselves yesterday. But Cushendall, like, yeah, like they look fitter than they have before, well organised. And then when you have someone like Neil McManus inside in the full forward line, and then Joey McLaughlin beside him, like, I just think, and then Ed McQuillan got a few class points. I thought the response to the goal was really good. When they were ahead, and you were like, God, they're really getting a stranglehold of this game. Next thing, Slaughtneil get that goal. It was Eamon Cassidy's one where they worked it well. They worked through, lovely finish from Eamon Cassidy into the bottom corner, and then you kind of think to yourself, right, Slaughtneil will push on here now and should be kind of taking over this game. But the opposite happened, where Ed McQuillan pops up, gets a point, and then they respond with point, and then I think as well a huge loss, and people maybe underestimate a little bit, but Jerry Bradley going off was massive. Like, he conducts an awful lot of stuff there in front of the half back line for Slaughtneil. Brilliant in the air, really good at delivering the ball, great carrier as well, real fast. And then you see Rogers was inside, and when they could find him, he looked dangerous, but he missed chances that he doesn't usually miss. Which again, they just looked rusty at times. But Cushendall, again, right, huge win for Cushendall, and they were in the All-Ireland final a couple of years ago. Is the team now as good as that team? It might be. They look a bit fitter. Definitely, they're well organised, and they have some serious hurlers around the place. Like, who was I saying there? Sorry, Paddy Burke and Campbell. Paddy Burke was really good yesterday. Campbell centre back as well, kind of like Paddy Deegan, where, except obviously at a different level now, where he's real powerful going forward, good at reading the game, and he's as hard as nails, like, and a good hurler obviously as well, like, but hard as nails, rules the roost back there. They're set up nicely as well, where they're kind of tricky enough to break down, and I think like themselves and O'Loughlin's in Parnell Park could be some battering match. Like, it could be just an awful slog around the middle, where the middle is packed with about 12 to 14 players and just trying to break each other down. But yeah, I have to say now, I liked them. Ed McQuillan got a couple of actually two really good points in the first half, like I was saying, kind of lovely mix of different types of scores. But yeah, them O'Loughlin's now will be interesting. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, no, that should be a cracker of the game. I saw Cat O'Kane tweeting after that it took 5 attempts from a steward to get Neil McManus away for the presentation. He fairly delivered on his speech afterwards when he did get there. I wasn't a big fan at all of Mikey Butler being pulled away for an interview while O'Loughlin's were being presented with the trophy. Now I know there's certain like commitments and they're looking for an interview for TV or something, but to me, I don't think, and I'd always be very wary of it when you're looking for an interview on the pitch after, not to interrupt, or yeah, you let the celebrations kind of die down a second, and then you take a fella away or whatever. But I wouldn't have been a big fan of that Mikey Butler thing. Now I think you only get, like, that might be his only ever Leinster title to win with O'Loughlin's in Croke Park. I think you need to allow lads to soak in that type of memory.
Yeah, and I think the way, like, I've had to do that a few times with TG Carr as well, like there, where but the way we do it is we have to run in from the sideline and get in on the middle of the pitch with the lads. And like after the Tip County final there, I interviewed wing back for Kildagan, Red Helmet. Yeah. So he was hugging his family and he was hugging lads and talking and whatever. So I left it, and then eventually said, do you mind answering a couple of quick questions? And somebody goes, you're after getting man the match. And he just laughed. And I said, just 2 quick questions, I'll leave you go then. And he says, yeah, thanks, whatever, that kind of thing. But that thing of, dragging away off somebody over to the side like Mikey, but even when I saw it too, I kind of went, what the hell? Just leave him, approach him on the field, or leave him. Don't bring him over to the corner at Hill 16 while, his mother and father maybe are coming down onto the field looking for him, or whoever, girlfriend or partner, whatever the hell. Looking for him. It was odd. It was odd. And it's hard to do that too. Like, and then again, like, I've asked lads and they've basically told me to take a run and jump, and you go, yeah, fair enough. Like, I don't care. Like, it's just like, if nobody wants to talk, nobody wants to talk. That's fine. Go and enjoy it. But I thought that was odd as well. Yeah, I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, just on Cushendall, do you think they're as good as they were when they got to the final in 16? And like, they're not playing, with due respect to O'Loughlin's, they're not playing Ballyhale now. Do you know what I mean? Like, so would they see this as a bit of an opening potentially?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, like they'd be confident enough, like, as well. And it's a matter of how do you stop O'Loughlin's half back line. That's probably, well, not probably, that is the winning and losing of the game. And then, are they better than they were in 16? I'd say so. I think so. They're definitely kind of far more organised and fitter, like I was saying. And that's something I noticed with Dunloy last year as well. They've obviously learned from Slaughtneil, and kind of Neil McManus kind of referenced that in the speech as well. Like, kind of Slaughtneil did really take the Ulster kind of hurling level, because they were the first club from Derry to win it. And, you know, Antrim, or, you know, would have kind of had a notion of, well, sure, they're like, these are our little brothers kind of a thing. Like, really, a Derry club shouldn't be beating an Antrim club. But Slaughtneil did take it to another level. And I think they learned from that Dunloy and Cushendall the last 2 years. They're far better organised. They're used to the slitters way better than it used to be. Kind of Antrim, I suppose, for a long time there, they've always had the skillful hurlers and stuff, and they've always had hurlers at club level as good as anywhere in the country. Obviously, where you look at many, you know, whatever, they've always been competitive at club level, but very traditional kind of 15 on 15. We'll hurl, you play your position, I'll play mine, and then they get out taught and dragged around the field, kind of man on man stuff. Which is awful, obviously, and you get horribly exposed when that happens in Croke Park. But that team, the way they were set up yesterday, now, that's why it probably looked fairly ugly on the TV as well. If you're there, you probably can't appreciate as much. Like, how many times the Slaughtneil backs have the ball and they're looking up, and they're really getting caught over carrying it because there's nowhere to hit it. So you'd love to see, obviously, a wide angle shot or a behind the goal shot of what way were Cushendall set up, because they obviously couldn't deliver the slitter anywhere. The Slaughtneil, and they're kind of tipping it around, giving it back to the goalie, and lads are trotting out with it. And it probably was ugly enough, but different conditions. And again, like, look, at the end of the day, it's December. Like, you know, what are people expecting sometimes? Like, and there was a couple of things now privately and publicly that I got involved in as well. Lads kind of giving out about the standard and stuff there in Ulster, like clueless stuff, absolutely clueless stuff. Like, I mean, Slaughtneil hadn't played a hurling match in 12 weeks, and you could tell, right? Cushendall had the extra game, and you could tell it helped them, right? I just think just sometimes the way people talk about hurling in Ulster, it's insulting, it's ignorant, and it's embarrassing, really. Because if you had the shoe on the other foot there, if a team from Ulster took the beating that Clonlara took yesterday from Ballygunner, lads would be throwing out things like, oh, is it really any good for them to be in the competition and this and that and the other and all that kind of stuff? And, you know, a 12-week rest, you know, sure, how would they be, you know, them excuses are always grand for teams from Wexford or Tip or Waterford or whatever, but then it doesn't suit the narrative when it comes to Slaughtneil. Like, so I often think, you know, like one lad was there saying that the secondary school teams in Leinster and Munster would beat Cushendall or Slaughtneil. You're kind of going, and I saw that, and usually I'd kind of go, I'm leaving that alone, but I was like, I'm actually going to respond to this now, because this is so ridiculous, because it's just like, you know, it's disrespectful. It's just, it's dumb. Like, them lads, as club hurling goes, like, look at their record. Like, look, you know, let's say Cork clubs. When was the last time a Cork club won All Ireland? It was back Newtown Chandrum. When was the last time a Tip club won All Ireland? You know, when was it? Toomevara, was it? You know, Lockheed.
Ireland. No,
or sorry, well, so there you go.
Are you going back to Ursulee? I think you might be, are you?
Might be. And in that time, you know, how many Antrim clubs have been in an Ireland final and how many have won? Lockheed have won. Like, so, you know, and then saying things like, oh, sure, look, Slaughtneil won Derry and they got straight into an Ulster final. That's a joke. Well, Galway teams win Galway and get straight to an All-Ireland semi-final. So, you know, why does it, you know, this kind of, it's ugly talk. It's anti-hurling talk, really. This kind of thing of, like, you're not worth it unless you're from Kilkenny, Tip or Cork. Are you really even worth talking about? Like, even actually speaking now, when you're from Offaly as well now, right? I got into it. I kind of stung a fella from Clare there not so long ago in a WhatsApp as well. He was laughing at a fella from Offaly in the group saying, like, sure, what would you know about it, blah, blah. And I just said, how many All-Irelands do Clare have? And, you know, you're kind of going, like, Offaly club hurling has been as good, you know, and there's ebbs and flows, but, like, just Borough, like, probably the best club hurling team we've ever seen, you know. And in the 90s and 80s, whatever, Offaly were as good a hurling team as you would have gotten. And it's like, you know, hurling doesn't belong to a certain amount of counties. I know I'm kind of ranting here now, but it just annoys me when this comes up. You know, or Dublin, people will often say, and it was great now hearing Charlie Carter say what he said there at the end as well, because, you know, you'll often get this, Dublin have no natural hurlers. They have no natural hurlers, this and that, and da-da-da-da-da. And you're kind of going, Jesus Christ, lads. Football is the big show in town. I've talked about this before on the show, on this thing, where, look, at the end of the day, lads are getting dragged to football because that's where the All-Ireland medals are. But there's hurlers in that football team that if they were all hurling with Dublin, Dublin would be as competitive as any other county in Leinster, definitely, and would be competing for All Irelands. Now, look, Limerick are obviously too good now, like, but you know. So anyway, that stuff I just wanted to get that off my chest because it was annoying me.
No, that's it's gas because we were brought up like playing like going up facing Donegal and All Irelands. Our respect would always be through the roof, and mine has been through the roof since I was a young fella. And you're just, you know what I mean. You know how good they are, and even if it's a new face, if it's Cushendall or if it's Schlockneil, you know how good it is because you've seen it from previous generations. But just one quick one I wanted to throw at you. Antrim look like they're going to be under pressure for 2024 before the year even starts. Neil McManus is retired. Donald Nugent is taking time out. Ryan Elliott is taking a year out. Shan Elliott, Keelan Malloy, Joe Maskey. I think there's one more as well. There's 4 Dunlife fellas. Like that's a fair. Is it? I can't think. There's another forward. He came on as a sub this year in most of the games. I think he came on against Westmeath and got 1-1. But like that's a fair cohort to be missing when you're not blessed with the riches of maybe some of the other big counties.
But and even at that, any county would struggle with that amount of lads missing. Like Keelan Malloy, again, as good as any midfielder in the country, right? You take him out, you're kind of going, oh, that's harsh enough. Neil McManus retires, obviously legendary Antrim hurler. Now I know like Joey McLaughlin will probably be going in there, and he is as good as I think he is as good and as exciting a forward as there is around as young fellas like the like of himself and even like Screeny, these kind of lads, like real classy young fellas like. But yeah, that's an awful lot of lads to be missing. It's too many really, and they will struggle. It's too many good lads. It's too many high-end lads to be missing. But again, look, nobody's contractually obliged. People have lives. They want to go do things while they can. But that's too many lads to be missing.
Definitely. Just a quick one. I don't know if you've even seen this result or know much about it, but we're talking about Ulster hurling there. I know a few boys up in Setanta, up in Donegal, did a serious win over Aero from Tyrone in the Ulster Intermediate final at the weekend. And interestingly enough, or ironically enough, it was former Tyrone player Jerry Gilmore that his 11 points were kind of the difference between the two teams. But like I was saying this I was chatting to Mickey McShane last week. Actually, it was funny. I was chatting to him on Tuesday, and he wouldn't. I could I'll crack him, but he's the Shockneil manager. He wouldn't tell me who they had played in challenge games. And I asked him if Shane McGuigan was back in the squad, and he told me that he had a niggle and didn't play the Derry Championship, and had aggravated that niggle, and that he was unavailable. So it's kind of funny when a lad kind of, not that he lied barefaced or anything, but you kind of have to keep your cards close to your chest, like I'm sure. And he was good. He was decent yesterday by all accounts. He got 2 points or whatever. But just on that Setanta result, I was saying to Mickey McShane, wouldn't it be great if we got to a point in Ulster where we had 6 or 7 or 8 or hopefully maybe 9 back competing in the Ulster Club Championship? Like, it would be brilliant.
Yeah, and that's the goal, obviously. Like, Setanta are pushing and pushing hurling and coming on there along with a couple other teams, a couple other clubs in Donegal, Burt as well, like, and stuff. And then Dungannon and Tyrone as well. They're all like pushing on and pushing hurling, and that's what they need, right? That's what Ulster hurling needs again. That's what hurling in general needs again, is more strong hurling clubs, right? That there's a good big spread of clubs around the country, and like even again referencing, like, that's a huge win for Setanta, right? I remember a couple of years ago in the All Ireland Intermediate, what was it, the Final Four, there was a club from Kerry, Kildare, Derry, and Mayo, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, that was that was only a couple of years.
Yeah, Banagher and
Banner and Derry, yeah.
And Banagher, Naas, Turin, and who can't remember from Kerry now, but
Kilmiley.
There you go, yeah. Like, that's ideal. Like, that is brilliant. That's what you want. You get them exposed to them big days, push it on, give it the proper kind of promotion and exposure that it deserves, right? And then hopefully, like we were kind of talking about with Turin, you can build on it. So then you get to a point where, hey lads, now the Mayo champion are actually going to play the Galway champion. Let Roscommon, Leitrim, the Galway Intermediate champions, let them, and Sligo, let them fight out the Intermediate Connacht Championship now, and then hopefully then, let's say the Sligo champion wins intermediate a couple of years in a row, they win an intermediate All Ireland, and then now we have 3 teams in the Connacht Senior Championship. There you go. Same in Ulster, that you would have ideally the Donegal champion playing in senior, the Down champion, the Antrim champion, the Derry champion, and the Armagh champion. There's 5, not to mention Fermanagh as well. So that's ideally what you're looking for. So this is kind of the first step, I suppose, on that path now that a Donegal champion has won intermediate. But there's a real strange rule, and I don't know if they still have it, and I just think it's ridiculous that in Ulster it definitely was there. If you win the intermediate Ulster championship, you're not allowed to compete in it for something like 4 years again. So then Setanta then can't compete in the intermediate next year. But then if they lose and get, like, let's say, relegated out of the senior championship the following year, they still, if they win, they still can't go back then and win intermediate. It's real anti-progressive stuff, I would think. That let them develop at their own pace, right? Don't be putting any kind of stringent rule and like that in. It's like, sure, how is that progress? Because what happens if Setanta don't win it next year and Burt come out, all of a sudden they're thrown into place Loughnane, like out of nowhere. Like we kind of go, they're not ready for that yet, you know, or they're playing Cushendall or Lougheed or whoever, and you're kind of going, geez, you know, and they get a slaughtering, and you kind of go, look, you know, right, okay, yeah, sometimes you're going to get a beat and you're going to take a heavy beat. That's just part of sport, but not on your first go around. Let them try and compete in intermediate, so you can win the intermediate. So I just, hopefully that rule gets scrapped or is gone already. But that's a huge win for Setanta. It's a huge win for Setanta, and hurling Tyrone is progressing nicely. There's more hurling clubs in Derry as well now than there used to be. So yeah, hopefully it just keeps progressing the way it is, like, because this is what we need, like, you know, more hurling clubs, more hurling clubs, more hurling clubs.
And if this nonsense about the 5 teams in the Lorimar not playing league, if the only thing that comes out of that is that a load of resources, a load of personnel and plenty of finances are pumped into those counties and more, and it's gas. And Mickey McShane said this as well. He said Tyrone have only 4 senior clubs in, you know, competing in the senior championship, but the reason that they weren't included in it is because the county board would never allow it. Like, it wasn't even ever on the table. So, like, there are 1 or 2 of those counties within the 5 are definitely guilty of potentially lobbing a ball there towards the CCCC and seeing what sort of reaction it would get in save money or whatever. But hopefully those counties, there'll be plenty of resources pumped into them. But Nisha, you've been super with your time. Really, really appreciate it. And no doubt we'll talk soon.
No matter. Go on.
Whoa.
I was just going to say,
we nearly, your return. We'll have to keep you off for 10 years and bring you back on an OurGame show in 10 years' time, just like CM Punk.
Yeah. Straight edge, what was I going to say? Yeah, like, you were talking to Charlie Carter about horses for long enough. For God's sake, like, you nearly went off without War Games. You nearly forgot Survivor Series. Randy Orton, R-Truth, and CM Punk. So, geez, like I said, all we need back now is Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Brock Lesnar were elected.
Yeah. No, I tell you now, I'm unashamedly a massive wrestling fan. Have been for 30 years. I'll never hide it. You clearly are too, with the Macho Man sunglasses that you regularly wear. But that CM Punk comeback was one of the great comebacks. It's gas. I was only wearing a purple Macho Man t-shirt the other day, actually, would you believe?
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
And the other lad on the other one, Ric Flair, by. Look, wrestling is great crack. It's great theatre. If you don't appreciate that, you're probably an anti-hurling fan as well, sure, for God's sake.
The one thing I'll say about it as well is that whenever about 2 teams go and playing each other, they're trying to win the game. So they'll do anything to win the game. If it means putting 14 men behind the ball, 2 wrestlers go out into a ring, all they're trying to do is make sure that it's the best match possible for me and you. So that's the entertainment, that's the theatre. And yeah, no, I'm a grown man who still enjoys it, I won't lie.
Same. There's that. It's as far as entertainment goes, it's almost as good as you get. When the good characters are in it now, we went through an awful lull there for about 10 or 12 years, and I kind of was dipping in and out, but the last kind of year and a half there now, I've been betting into it now. It's very good, I have to say.
Good man. Like Mussolini, I'm going to let you go, all right?
Go on,
Talk to you soon. Take her handy. Good luck. great to have Nisha there talking everything hurling, and obviously a bit of wrestling thrown in for good measure too. I've lots more to get through here. I'll be flying solo for the rest of the show, but lots more to get through. Just going to fly through some quick comments Darragh O'Sullivan made after the Munster Club hurling final. He just said about Ballygunner's historic 3 in a row, the first one ever done. He says, that's why it is amazing to be where we are as a club, to be alongside Blackrock now for the most Munster titles. When I was playing, we couldn't win one and we couldn't get over the Clare teams. He added 3 in a row is not something we spoke about. That's the truth. And yet when you do it, it is hugely pleasing. And he just talked about that great team goal. He said, I just watched the second goal there, which was unbelievable. That's the skill set these guys have. And add a bit of work rate in, and add in a bit of work rate. And he says, we'll enjoy this. No doubt they will. They will face St. Thomas's in 2 weeks' time. And the other semi-final will be Cushendall against O'Loughlin Gales. Just a couple of other little bits of hurling bits and pieces to tidy up. So Castlelyons had a good win over Corofin in the Munster Intermediate Final. Finished Castlelyons 3-16, Corofin 19 points, and it was the man that flew back from Dubai, Anthony Spillane. He finished with a personal haul of 3-2. That was the difference really between the two teams. I think this game was actually delayed. The second half was actually delayed due to fog in the ground. So when the fog lifted, Castlelyons were 6 points the better team, and a lot of it kind of paved the way from a really strong start that they had. So I think Corofin were much the better team in the second half, but they had too big of a hill to climb. Also success for a Cork club in the Munster Junior hurling final. So I finished St. Catherine's 2-14, Fina Kilmeady of Limerick 1-15. I mentioned Setanta's great success up in Ulster Intermediate Hurling Champions. Big shout out to Niall Cleary there. He's from Shinrone and Offaly. He was his skipper actually. They'd have a lot of outside influence there. Declan Coulter used to play with Armagh, was midfield, and Jerry Gilmore, who was formerly of Tyrone. He finished with 11 points. So that's most of the hurling news. Just a bit of breaking news in the last hour or so. Michael Murphy has ruled out any chance of a return to the Donegal squad. So speculation has been rife since Jim McGuinness's appointment as manager that he would attempt to coax Murphy out of retirement, and I believe he has tried to coax him out of retirement. They've been in constant communication. But Murphy insisted at a launch of GA Go's 2024 schedule today that nothing had changed. This was in a Q&A that he did with Grania McElwain at the start of to launch the GA Go schedule for 2024. So at the minute anyway, nothing has changed, and Michael Murphy won't be back. By all accounts, Conor McKeown, who was there for the Independent, said he firmly ruled out the prospect of a comeback. Just switch to football quickly. So Ballygunner won 3 in a row in the hurling in Munster. Kilmacud Crokes did 3 in a row in the football in Leinster. Finished Kilmacud Crokes 1-14, Naas 10 points. If you haven't seen it, Shane Walsh's little toe poke around 4 or 5 lads, and then a little chip lift that he did on the run, and then scoring into an empty net is definitely worth your time. He was brilliant. He finished with 1-8, 5 frees. Shane Horn kicked in with 2 points as well. Alex Byrne and Dara Kerwin were the best 2 for Naas. They kicked 4 apiece, 1 free each. But it was a real masterclass from Shane Walsh, who looks back to the type of form that he was in when he should have got man to match in the All-Ireland final in 2022. He was brilliant, and it's all set. There's one step away from the Kilmacud Crokes Glen rematch. Just a small matter of Glen having to overcome Scottstown this weekend before that, basically, to make that happen. Kildare were beaten in the senior Leinster Club final, but they won the Leinster Junior and the Intermediate. So Milltown from Kildare won the Junior, finished Milltown 1-9, Clyde Rangers from Louth 1-4, and in the Leinster Intermediate final, that young gun Johnny Doyle is still going strong at the age of, he must be 45 at this stage. His Alan Wood had a 4-12 to 3-5 win over Dublin's Scully Conlon. Colin Parkinson had a lovely tweet go around there. It was a picture of Rory Morn, who was page boy for Johnny Doyle's wedding as a young fella, and he was midfield with Johnny Doyle on Saturday as they won the intermediate Leinster title. Amazing, really. It just shows you how long Johnny has been around. But Owen Bagnall did most of the scoring for Alan Wood. He finished with 1-5. And by all accounts, they were 10 points the better team over Scully Conlon the other day. In Connacht, pretty big upset by all accounts. Most people were thinking that Corofin could give, a really good charge on the All-Ireland this year, but they were under pressure from the off against St. Bridget's. They finished St. Bridget's 113, Corofin 2-5. Ben O'Carr, absolutely outstanding. He kind of maybe rose to prominence this year in the league when Roscommon finished third in Division 1 and stopped that yo-yoing up and down to Division 2. He was outstanding. He finished with 1-7. And it was really a strong start, laid the foundations for the Kiltoom side. And it's 10 years since they won the All-Ireland Club Football. And now they're only 2 steps away from potentially repeating that dose. They will face the winners of Dingle and Castlehaven in the All-Ireland semi-final. And as I mentioned, it's Crokes facing the Ulster champions, either Glen or Scottstown on the other side. Ben O'Carroll finished with 1-7, a goal from a penalty and 4 frees. And by all accounts, the 2 stacks were brilliant for St. Bridget's. For Corofin, Liam Silk got a great goal. Barron forward from defence. Dylan McHugh with a goal as well. But they were kind of always... they were always under a bit of pressure from the off. Just to mention Donegal there and Michael Murphy not coming back or ruling out a comeback. The Donegal footballers are actually have jet off to Tenerife. I've heard of warm weather training camps in maybe April or May, but I've never really heard of them the first week in December. But they're gone to Tenerife. They went on Saturday for a week-long warm weather training camp. So Jim McGuinness is taking his band away for a 7-day get-together, which marks the beginning of the preparations for the 2024 season. Now, I find it hard to believe that will only be the beginning of the 2024 season. I'd say there's a good bit done, be it privately or personally or individually before this. Funds for the trip, which were understood to be in the region of €80,000, are believed to be already covered. So McGuinness, as was similar in his previous reign, has a hell of a lot of financial clout, and a lot of teams, a lot of companies, businesses and business people from Donegal are rowing in behind him. Just in the All-Ireland Ladies Club Football semi-final, so Kilkerran and Clonberne, they had a very, very tough battle against Kilmacud Crokes the other day. Eventually came through in extra time, finished Kilkerran Clonberne 15 points. Kilmacud Crokes 110. That was kind of peculiar, actually. It's Kilkerran Clonberne, Shane Walsh's original club, against Kilmacud Crokes, his adopted club. But Kilkerran Clonberne would face Ballymacarbie, the long-standing Waterford champions, in the All-Ireland final after points from Maeve Flanagan and Olivia Dively helped them overcome Kilmacud Crokes after extra time in what was, by all accounts, a cracker of a game. Ballymacarbie overcame Clonairn 110 to 5 points. And the All-Ireland Camogie Club semi-finals, it finished Sarsfields from Galway 2-10. Their namesake, Sarsfields from Cork, 1-6. I think Sarsfields are going for an All-Ireland 3 in a row there. They will face Dixborough, who came from behind against Lochiel. They finished 2-13. Dixborough 1-10 to Lochiel Shamrocks. And by all accounts, the Sarsfield players and management were talking after about a challenge game they played against Dixborough earlier on the year, where with a full outfit they were beaten by 6 or 7 points. So they'll know each other fairly well going into that All-Ireland Club Camogie final. Just thinking, are there any other little bits and pieces? Might just fly through a few comments here before we go. Richard Hogan just says about Cushendall hurling was much crisper yesterday. Shocknail never got Brendan Rodgers into the game. Portaferry game stood to Cushendall. It certainly did. Harburn, if that was in Connacht, that would mean Tureen would have been seniors years ago. Yeah, the ruling that Nisha mentioned there about Ulster, that if you win the Ulster Intermediate, you can't play for 4 years. Tureen would have been up a long time ago. Probably would have stunted their progress had they gone up that time ago. Turlock Hendry just said been changed 2 years, but if this is the rule that Nisha mentioned, but if the Satanta don't win Donegal, then no Donegal club will be senior. Always been the way. Armagh was like that with Keady senior for years and Middletown intermediate. So that's all for today's show, folks. Shane will be back on Thursday, where we'll be previewing the football action, and no doubt we'll have another big guest for to keep you entertained in these kind of winter months. But thanks a million for joining us, folks, and we will chat to you again on Thursday.